Okay, how many of you guys have seen that LA fire chief video that's been making the rounds on the internet? Anybody seen that? The absolute rage-inducing. Yeah. So Red did us around this. Okay. Red is probably gonna play the video, so I'm not gonna give anything away. You guys, oh yeah, you guys are not gonna be happy on this. Alright? This is basically, uh, this is gonna be rage-inducing for anybody living in California. It could be Big Dog, but I was planning on watching it anyway. Yeah, yeah, Rev asked me may want booze first. So, let's jump into this. It's a bit longer of a Rev one. This one's a bit longer, so I'm guessing Rev is gonna go deep into this, or maybe he's gonna be talking about other stuff at the same time. So, let's jump into this.
Here. So today's topic is going to be a slightly different one, but its underlying theme is something very common to this channel, and that is DEI. Now, I think it's pretty obvious at this point that there's been a vibe shift over the past couple of months. A lot of people are becoming more and more vocal about how much they don't like DEI, and now companies are starting to listen to those concerns at a very, very rapid rate. We have seen a lot of companies over the past couple of weeks come out and completely abandon their DEI-related policies. We see companies.
Now, if you ask Kirsche about this, though, these companies that supposedly are abandoning DEI are transitioning into bridge. So the DEI is not going to be an outward-facing thing. It's going to be more internalized and integrated into the company as a whole. So just because these companies have said that they're getting rid of their quote DEI divisions or whatever, but you can't believe it because these companies are all about making money. They know that saying they have DEI is losing the money. If they just say, "Oh, we got rid of it," then people will go, "Oh, okay, we'll start buying your products again." When in reality, yeah, they're changing over to Bridge, and everything is going to be integrated into the company proper instead of just having this one little DEI division.
Companies like Meta, McDonald's, Walmart, Boeing, Ford, so on and so forth. Now, are these efforts genuine and sincere? Absolutely not. These companies and platforms are doing this because they know it will make them the most money. They are seeing which way the wind is blowing, and they're changing accordingly. I've seen way too many people say people like Mark Zuckerberg are now based because he came out and said he wants to reprioritize free speech on Facebook. Well, he's only doing that now because it's in his favor to do so.
Yeah.
He is someone who is cracking down on people. He was one of the biggest proponents of censorship for many years, and all of a sudden now...
And on the topic of Zuckerberg, he's also injecting fucking AI bots into Meta. Let's not forget about that. He's actually injecting bots throughout Facebook. Full profiles, full engagement. Like, that's why people were saying that the dead internet theory is coming to light, because Facebook is just filling their servers with AI bots with fake profiles. So, fuck Zuckerberg and what he's saying. He's full of shit.
He wants to prioritize free speech. But at the end of the day, whether genuine or not, at least these policies are being abandoned, which is a good thing. And it also shows that if people speak up about policies like DEI, these companies are going to listen because it's in their own interest to do so. Now here we're looking at products.
Again, they're not going to listen. These companies did not listen. What they did is they said, we need to hide it better. And so they're getting rid of the public-facing DEI, and now the DEI is just going to be integrated into the company proper, and there's not going to be a specific division that anyone can point to and go, that's the DEI division, they're responsible for this. It's all going to be interwoven into the company itself. So let's not fuck with it.
Services and platforms making these policies that people don't like, but I have never seen the consequences of DEI hit a level like this thanks to the California wildfires. Now, if you're not familiar with what's going on in the state of California, there are massive wildfires right now that were sped up by a dry season and also some massive windstorms over the past couple of days. And the scenes look like something straight out of hell. It's a very, very dire situation. And right now, the situation looks grim in many different ways. At least 11.
Yes. So, second update, my family is still fine. I talked to them yesterday. Again, they are doing just fine. I actually one of my family members said that when the wind blew a certain way, their porch and all the furniture on their porch got completely covered in ash. Like the porch itself, all the furniture on their porch got completely covered with ash from the wildfires. They're just throwing ash into the air. And then when the wind changed direction, went the opposite direction, all the ash got blown completely away. But yes, my family is doing fine. They are safe. They are not in any danger, thankfully.
11 people have been killed, and that's before the wreckage has been searched by cadaver dogs or anything like that. On top of that, tens of thousands of acres have been destroyed, entire communities leveled, over thousands and thousands of homes, 12,000 structures overall, and 13 people are missing. And to make matters worse, right now only a small fraction of the wildfires are actually contained. In fact, the biggest blaze 20%. Right now is only 11% contained, and that's with another series of massive windstorms expected to start next week. Now, a lot of finger pointing is happening right now where people are trying to find out who's to blame. Well, one thing's for sure, we don't know what started these fires, and honestly, that's not really what's important. What's important is looking at the preparedness.
And to that, about what started the fires. People have said, there have been plenty of theories online. Oh, it was started by arson. Somebody deliberately started the initial spark that has caused the wildfires. There's been speculation about, could it have been campers? Could it have been trash? The reality is, chances are, we are not going to know what started these wildfires. They are very likely not going to find the source, because the amount of damage and chaos has obliterated any ignition point and what the cause of it might be. So we are not going to know what started these wildfires. Yes, there's been a couple things of a couple people have tried to start additional fires on top of the existing wildfires. Yes, we've heard about that. We've heard about looters that are trying to start fires to cover their tracks when they're looting. But the main wildfire, we are not going to know what started that. So that one is just, whoa, hang on. Okay. Jeez, my freaking monitor. What the hell? My monitor just blanked out on me again. Anyway, yeah, well, we are not gonna know. If people had started other fires, like to try and cover their looting, that's a whole different story. But we're not gonna know. And anybody that tries to say, oh yeah, we're investigating and we've determined what the cause of it is full of shit. Because with a wildfire this size,
we didn't start the fire, but it was always burning as the world's been turning.
Yes.
Of California, and also the response they're having to the fires as they're happening. And people are first looking at the government, they're looking at the governor, they're looking at the mayor, and they're claiming that they're incompetent and they didn't do their jobs, because for a state with some of the most wealth, especially in Los Angeles, how do they not have water in their reservoirs? How do they not have water in their fire hydrants? This makes absolutely no sense. And people are looking at things also like budget cuts to the Los Angeles Fire Department. And you can see they lost $17 million in funding. And before you feel bad for the LA Fire Department chief who said this and said, we're not prepared for wildfires because of this cut, this same person has spent through their department $1 to $2 million on DEI related policies. Yeah, someone sit here and explain to me how you spend $1 to $2 million on DEI. making your company more diverse,
And
your
this is not the
department more
worst part.
diverse. Very strange stuff. And this is the same person who's complaining about budgets being tight, and this is what they make annually. That person we just looked at, Christina Crowley, makes nearly $500,000 a year.
And meet the people in charge of LA's fire response. All of them are lesbian women named Kristen. Christina Crowley, Christina Kepner, Christine Larson. Okay. First and foremost, let me just say, it doesn't matter. This is disingenuous. This statement right here is disingenuous. Let me just point that out immediately. All of them being lesbians, I mean, obviously all of them being named Kristen is completely immaterial, but all of them being lesbians is immaterial. This part, it means nothing. Okay? This does not speak to the character of them as a firefighter. It does not. So this is gaslight. This is virtual signaling, not gaslight. This is virtue signaling because all three of them are lesbians. So, let us not fuck with this. This means nothing. It has absolutely no bearing on their character or ability as a firefighter, because that's what I give a shit about.
There is no justifiable reason to have DEI in an essential or emergency service. These positions require qualified individuals, because lives are literally on the line.
Absolutely correct, Leo. Yes. Absolutely correct. There should not be... Now, what I'd be curious about is, what is the 1 to 2 million on DEI? What does that entail? That's what I want to know. It's like saying they spent 1 to 2 million on DEI. I want to know what in specific it was spent on. Because, just like the one side, basically destroying words, calling people istophobias because they don't agree with them, it is way too fucking easy on the other side of the equation to label everything DEI. That is way too fucking easy right now. So, the 1 to 2 million that was spent on quote-unquote DEI, I want to know what in specific what that money was spent on, before I'm prepared to classify it as quote DEI. Because again, it is far too easy to just throw that acronym out at everything these days. Just like the istophobia shit, DEI shit is getting grotesquely overused. Show me some receipts, show me some facts, so I can actually make an informed, educated viewpoint on this.
But then is crying about budget concerns. And as you can see here, these are the people in charge of the Los Angeles fire response. 3 women who are all lesbians.
I love what you get means nothing.
I'm sure. Like, that totally happened naturally, that 3 lesbians would find themselves at the top of a department that is
Again, I don't care. I don't care that all 3 are women. I don't care that all 3 are lesbian. The only thing I care about is, can they do the job, and do they have a track record of being able to do the job? That is all I give a fuck about. Now, is it very possible that this was a deliberate choice for them to put 3 women that are lesbian into the top 3 positions of authority in the LA Fire Department? It's entirely possible. Absolutely. And if that is the reason they're hired, then we got a problem. And then I'll be happy to rage. But show me receipts first. It is way too fucking easy to fly off the handle and assume, oh, they were all DEI hires. Yes, the evidence, yes. This is way too much to be labeled as coincidence. But let me see what their track records are first. Let me see what their track records are. There are many badass women firefighters out there that do a kick-ass job. I'm not going to say that these 3 women may not be one of them or not. I'm not going to make that judgment call because I don't know what the records are.
Dominated by men. But you can see, like I said, their salaries are through the roof. And you can see this person in particular, Christina Kepner, the first lesbian assistant chief of LAFD, making nearly $300,000 a year. Now, she's gone viral for this clip right here.
Here
this,
we go.
I will
Here we
stress
go.
to you, if you haven't seen it yet, this is not satire. This is...
There's a few house across the street from my apartment. When I was a kid, I found my first naughty movie VHS tape in the AW trash. Yeah.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Tangia changed porno to naughty. Huh. Hatanashi? You need to have a high salary in LA just to survive. You know, LA is ungodly expensive. So, despite what you're seeing with that salary, they may or may not be living high on the hog. Because LA is goddamn expensive to live in. No, exactly. It's like that. This looks really high, but for LA, it may be slight. It's more than most, sure, but this is not you have to contextualize it with the cost of living in LA. Yeah, I mean, big dog, that's just above 300K is in LA is probably somewhat above what's that, middle class. That's where I'm looking for. 300K it's somewhat up, it's above middle class, but it is not in the category of wealthy. It is not, because LA is just that goddamn expensive.
This is not parody. This is a real
Here we go.
video
Watch
of this person.
You want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you. It gives that person a little bit more ease, knowing that somebody might understand their situation better. Is she strong enough to do?
Okay, I'm going to unpack this as it goes.
A bit more
I've
ease,
seen this.
knowing that somebody might understand their situation better.
You're a fucking firefighter, not a cop. Your job is that someone's calling for help because they are either experiencing a fire emergency or a medical emergency. Their situation is that they are calling you for fucking help. You're not the police. You don't need to understand their situation. All you need to know is that their house is on fire. They are in a car accident and they were trapped in their vehicle and need help. They are having a medical emergency. Their fucking cat is stuck in a tree. What the fuck ever? You don't need to understand their situation. You literally help everybody. It doesn't fucking matter what their situation is. If they're asking for help, you go fucking help. If you are incapable of doing that, you're in the wrong fucking job. Secondly, people that call the fire department for help do not give a flying fuck what their skin color is and whether or not they have tits. They do not fucking care. The only thing they care about is, can you save my life? Can you save my home that is currently on fire? That's all that matters. So for her to say, "Oh, the people want someone who shows up that when you're calling the fire department, you want someone shows up that looks like you." No, you dumb twat. They just want a big ass red fire truck showing up with hoses and people that know how to fucking use them. So you're an idiot. And while I wasn't going to say you were a DEI hire before, I'm thinking it now.
Cheer 100. The average pay for a firefighter in LA is $58,783 to $99,172 per year.
Okay, Duran. Well, if you factored in That's for the average firefighter. Then you have lieutenants, then you have captains, then you have commissioners, and then you have chiefs. That increase in pay is reasonable for the scaling up of RICs. Sure. It got refunded. The child points already got refunded, Heckle, don't worry. Yeah, so right off the bat, she's a fucking idiot. And she's not, I'm not going to say she's racist, but I am going to say that she is way too fucking fixated on race and ethnicity for a firefighter.
Situation better? Is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire, which my response is he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
That right there, she should lose her job. This fucking attitude, right fucking here, fun. Instantly fired. She cannot be in this position. Absolutely cannot be in this position. She has just proven herself that she cannot do this job. Fire her immediately. After this video came out, the next thing that should have been said is, yes, this person is no longer with the LA Fire Department. Like, bitch, you're a fucking firefighter. You are not going to fucking victim blame someone saying you shouldn't have, that's in a fucking fire. You're fucking scummy ass, better not be victim blaming. Saying, oh, you shouldn't have gotten yourself into that position in the first place. You fucking cunt. You don't know how people get into a fire. You are assuming every single fight, by your statement, you're assuming every fucking call to a fire that you get is an asshole that caused their own problems and should just burn up in the fucking fire because you're too much of a fucking lazy cunt to try and get them out and do your fucking job. What if this person was asleep and something happened to cause the fire, which happens often? What if there was an accident that caused the fire? What if this person tripped and fell and hurt themselves? Yes, it is your fucking job to be able to carry someone out of a fire. That is kind of a basic goddamn requirement of being a firefighter. Yeah, what if the person is disabled? I could say this 1,000 times if I wanted to. Bitch, slut, cunt needs to be fired. I'm gonna call her every fucking name in the book because what she just said right there is goddamn disgusting. And I guarantee you, the people of LA are screaming at the mayor right now. Fire this bitch now. She should have been, the moment this aired, she should have been fired. And anyone involved in letting her say this should have been fired because they can't do this job. Yeah. Oh, well, Xanax, the example given is you couldn't carry my husband out of the fire, indicating that a woman has said this to her, that you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire. And basically, what she's saying, without actually saying it, bear in mind, she's saying that the person who said this to her is right. Let's not forget about this. You couldn't carry my husband out of a fire is correct based on her response. She can't. Which means she can't do her fucking job that she was hired to do. That she's getting paid a couple $100,000 a year to do.
She is sexist, in her mind men are always at fault for everything.
I'm not willing to go that route yet. There is something of an indicate because she says if I have to carry him out of a fire, because she said he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire, and she's victim blaming. She's a firefighter. The person you call for help is victim blaming. How many people do you think are going to be willing to call the fire department for anything after this stupid bitch just broadcast this all over the internet? Eh? How many people? And firing her is only a small thing. That's only a small step in firing her, because she's speaking on behalf of the LAFD. Remember that. Granted, do I think all LAFD is like this? No, of course not. I think the vast majority of LAFD, vast majority of actual firefighters probably saw this broadcast and went, "What in the fuck are you doing, you stupid cunt?"
Cheer 100. I shudder to think how much worse it would have been in lower income parts of town if they were this unprepared in affluent neighborhoods.
They would just like, they wouldn't
gulag
even
with
try.
This bitch 1,000 years dungeon, no trials.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm guessing we're only 5 minutes in, it's gonna get even worse. But to finalize this, SWATless, not to my knowledge. If you wanna do some my chat minions, feel free to do some research to find out if this stupid bitch got fired or not.
Have to carry him out of a fire.
This is like the final boss of DEI. This is when woke people like the optics. They like how things look more than they actually function. You have someone in a position of power at the LA Fire Department telling you the appearance of firefighters is more important than their strength and physical.
Hang on. 2, 3. Eki, her name is Christina Kepner. She's the assistant fire chief. So that is her name, Christina Kepner. No, it's not Larson. It's not Larson. This one is Larson. Oh wait, you're right. No, sorry, I'm wrong. You're right, at best. Yeah, it's Christine Larson. Yeah. Wait, but she's not the assistant chief. She's the equity bureau chief. So she's not even the assistant chief. She's some made-up bullshit DEI position. This is a DEI position. The equity bureau chief. So yeah, she's basically the affirmative action chief. She ain't gonna be like, and notice, she's getting paid more than the goddamn assistant fire chief. Look at this. Look at the differences there. The assistant fire chief gets paid $264,000. The equity bureau chief, and chat, feel free to look up what this fucking job actually entails, gets paid almost as much as the fucking fire chief. This equity bureau chief gets paid almost the same as the fire chief. Oh, shit's gonna go down after this.
Than their strength and physical capabilities. That is absolutely insane. They are saying if you are, let's say, someone's husband, you're a husband who's trapped in a fire, and that DEI hire can't pick you up because they're not strong enough, it is your...
Yeah, and this one, I'm fully prepared to say that this individual right here is a DEI hire. She is 100% a DEI hire. She is not a firefighter. She has no business being in the fire department. No business whatsoever. DEI certificate from Cornell.
Based off of this speech, there's no way these weren't DEI hires. It's probably better these days to assume DEI unless otherwise proven. Cheer
Well,
100.
Revan? This one? Yes. This one, now bearing in mind what N Wokeness put here, she's not the assistant chief. This is disingenuous. She is not the assistant chief. She's the equity bureau chief.
It has been about half
Which
a
is
year
basically a
between two
meaningless position.
wildfires in California. The 2024 wildfire hit in Northern California and then 2025 wildfire hits Southern California.
But wildfires are a common thing in California, but they're getting bigger and bigger all the time, every year. And now we're seeing that. Starting in 2024, we're seeing the wildfires always happen in California because of the climate. But now we're seeing them getting worse and worse and worse for a multitude of reasons.
Insane. They are saying if you are, let's say, someone's husband, you're a husband who's trapped in a fire, and that DEI hire can't pick you up because they're not strong enough, it is your fault you're stuck in that fire. Regardless of whether or not you're incapacitated, you're trapped, or injured, it's just your fault. It's like literally a lifeguard who doesn't know how to swim, who then blames a person under their care of duty for drowning in the pool in front of them. It's absolutely insane, and people have been memeing on this, but also expressing a lot of outrage. How could this happen? How could someone like this be saying these things so openly? It's like DEI on steroids. Now, I want to go to this video by this individual named Kaizen D. Asiedu. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but I'll put a link to this video in the description because I think it's a really good one. We're going to listen to a bit of this because it really sums up everything wrong with California, the Los Angeles Fire Department, and everything else involved with the situation. How we got to a point where there's no water in these fire hydrants, and we have these DEI hires and prioritizations that are complete.
Let's see. Closest I could find to an answer from the LAFD site itself, with the new DEI Bureau, the department would develop and drive forward key diversity, equity, and inclusion strategies and initiatives to enhance the LAFD's work environment and performance. We will maximize our efforts to build and promote a culture where our diversity is truly valued and our work environment. Pinjin? You know what I see in all that statement? I don't see fuck all saying we are going to make sure that we have the best goddamn firefighters in California to keep our tax-paying residents safe. That's what I don't see in that statement. What I see in that statement is we're going to fill the LAFD with diversity hires because we care more about looks than actually being able to do our fucking job. That's what I see.
Completely backwards.
3 days ago, I had to evacuate my home in California due to the fires. Now, fortunately, I have friends who I was able to stay with. But many people don't have that good fortune, and now many people are homeless, and some have died. This disaster was caused by multiple variables, and people have different opinions on which one should be weighted the most. Some have identified arson, some have pointed to climate change. But regardless of the cause, hopefully we can all agree that we have a great degree of control over the response. And the response has been well below what we actually deserve.
Yes.
And part of the reason why is because we have inverted our priorities and are focusing on things like diversity, equity, and inclusion instead of efficacy.
You know, there's a lot of spaces in the world where, you know, DEI is always a cancer everywhere it goes. But DEI in certain places feels a little less harmful, right?
At least fucking Canada has sent bombers and choppers to California to help with these fires, okay? This is now a North America response because Alberta and I think Quebec, I'm not sure about that second part, have sent water bombers and I believe emergency water helicopters to help California fight the fires. So everybody is sending people. Everybody in North America is sending people because LAFD is, you know, instead of actually focusing on doing their jobs, they were more focused on photo ops. Great fire department.
Right? Like if you're talking about like an accounting firm trying to diversify their workforce, at the end of the day, maybe they just do some bad filings, right? But here we're talking about first responders.
I heard about that, Zed.
And things like physical capability being one of the most important things. Can you care?
Yeah, I paused. Sorry, Rev, I'm pausing you a lot. Yeah, I heard that one of the Canadian water bombers got clipped by a fucking drone. Like, how hard is it to? This is an active wildfire. Why have they not grounded any non-essential aircraft? Like, yeah, the Air Force should be doing fucking hot laps. And if there's any non-firefighter aircraft in the air, especially if it's unmanned, blow it the fuck out of the sky. Seriously. No kidding, it was flying illegally, Kaibo. But look, hopefully, I pray to God whoever was flying that drone, they arrest him and charge him. I hope to God I hope they charge him with a felony of obstructing firefighting efforts. Because that is a felony. To obstruct a firefighter is a felony. And I hope to God whoever owns that drone gets arrested and charged for it. I don't give a fuck I don't care if it's a news agency, I don't care if it's private. If it's a news agency, you fucking charge the drone operator and whoever ordered the drone operator to fly it, and then you sue the fucking news company for the repair costs to the water bomb.
Carry a full-grown man out of a fire, yes or no? It has to be yes. It literally has to be yes. But no, we are prioritizing things that are completely backwards.
And as a result of focusing on DEI, people have died. And in this video, I'm going to explain why. Last year, the LA Fire Department had its budget slashed by $17.6 million. In response to that, on December 4th...
Hello, Devos. Hello, Raiders. Welcome. Welcome. How was your stream? We're just kind of jumping into the whole thing, more stuff with the California wildfires and what a shit show the LAFD has become. How are you? I hope you're ready to do some raging because we've already started. And yes, Big Dog. Okay, Big Dog, I'm gonna say this, Big Dog. It should not matter that this is a black man saying this. Okay? Speaking truth to power does not require a specific ethnicity. Oh, do not worry, Devils. It is fine. It is just fine. We're always happy to have more people come in and join in on the rage. Yeah, okay. To be honest, I do appreciate the context. I do appreciate what you're saying. Like, in context, where a black man is doing a counterpoint to what a black woman has said. I appreciate that context. Here's my perspective, though. If you're speaking truth to power, if you are spitting facts, I do not give a fuck what color your skin is and what genitals you possess. It doesn't fucking matter, in my opinion. If you're speaking truth, you have facts to back it up, and you have the receipts to those facts. I don't care what you look like, or what you have, because the facts greatly outweigh all the rest of it. But I do understand what you're saying in terms of the context of that this is a black man saying. I do understand what you're saying with that, though.
Had its budget slashed by $17.6 million. In response to that, on December 4th, the head of the LA Fire Department, Kristen Crowley, sent a letter to Karen Bass, the mayor of LA, saying that they're not prepared for a variety of different disasters, including wildfires.
Okay, especially if you're not from the United States.
Now, thing to note. People, that Twitter post we saw before was criticizing, it's a lesbian is the fire chief. The lesbian fire chief flat out told this person, doing their job, listen, you slashed our budget. We don't have the money to fight these wildfires because you slashed our budget. So credit where it's due. This fire chief was telling this mayor, we cannot do our job because you slashed our budget like this. So I am fully going to give her credit for that because of that reason.
The biggest threat, or at least most consistent threat for California, is wildfires because it is a very dry area. They lack water, and it's mainly because of their own choices and their government. But anyways, they have a very hard time putting out these fires. They spread very quickly. I mean, we can also talk about earthquakes, but the wildfires are more frequent. And being told, as a mayor, you're being told by your fire department, they don't have the resources to combat wildfires. How on earth are you competent? That is insane.
Now, $17.6 million constitutes about 2% of LAFD's budget. But it's not about just the budget cuts. It's also about how they're spending their existing budget. Because a significant amount, at least 1 to 2 million.
I know. Like, I have not forgotten about that 1 to 2 million spent on quote-unquote DEI stuff. I have not forgotten about that. But I am, when she's doing something right, i.e. telling the mayor, hey, you're cutting our budget and we can't deal with firefighters. Like, I'm going to give her the credit for that singular thing. It is not removing any of the other stuff. Bear in mind, it's not about anything else that she's involved with. I'm for that one singular thing of letting the mayor know we can't do our job properly because the way you slash the budget. For that singular thing, I give her credit for. Just the one. When people do stuff that's right, I will call it out positively.
Spending their existing budget, because a significant amount, at least 1 to 2 million, was spent on diversity, equity, and inclusion policy.
So, like I said earlier,
there we go.
How do you account for $1 to $2 million to push forward diversity-related policies? Break those numbers down for me, how you spent that.
I can answer that question. You want to know you want to know why that much money was spent? It's paying for quote-unquote experts. That $1 to $2 million was spent on consultants and quote-unquote research. Basically, they spent $1 to $2 million on some scam artists that said, this DEI stuff is good for the department. Look at these fake stats that we're putting in front of you. And the LAFD went, sure, here's $2 million. That's what they spent the $1 to $2 million on. Is bullshit consultants that said we need X amount of money to run bullshit studies. And the LAFD is not alone in this. Every major company, at least in North America, probably on the planet, does the same fucking thing. They hire bullshit companies that say, we're going to do market studies or we're going to do diversity studies. Give us like hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this because we say that's how much it's going to cost. And these companies go, sure, there you go. Try, Brian. Thank you. I hope you like the live stuff just as much. I'm raging at the moment, so hopefully you like the rage stuff. And thank you for the follow also.
That much money to push forward just making your force more
not just market studies,
diverse.
But mostly
on top of
diversity
that,
studies.
I guarantee there's plenty of people, you can find them probably on Twitter, will be mad about videos like mine who are like, oh my god, they're blaming DEI for the wildfires. No, it's not the only cause of the wildfires, duh.
They're blaming it on the response.
In reality, if that $1 to $2 million was reallocated to something else, or some of the hires in the LA Fire Department were better suited based on their actual merit and not things related to DEI, maybe, just maybe, that would have made the situation 1% better. If it made it 1% better, that means potentially lives could have been saved. Homes could have been saved. Schools and buildings and other critical infrastructure could have been saved. Is that not good enough? Is that not a good enough justification? People care way more about how things look.
Oh yeah, Leo, I know. But I've said this before. We are giving these people too much power. These, like, diversity consultants or whatever, the companies give them too much power in that respect. Like you were saying with game science, what happened to game science. These diversity companies that come and say, you need us because you need us to do diversity studies to make sure you're on the, quote, right side of history. And if a company says no thank you and they decide they want to go into a smear campaign about it, the companies need to just go, do it. Go right the fuck in. We don't care what you say. Our business is good. We're making money. Our customers are happy. Your word doesn't mean anything. And I guarantee you, it'll be a hell of a lot cheaper to hire someone like a professional fucking troll who anytime these companies decide to try and do a smear campaign on Twitter, because that's the only place they operate on, bear in mind, these smear campaigns happen on Twitter. They need to hire the fucking trolls that Burger King and Taco Bell use. And Falcon and J10, thank you. Thank you so much for gifteds. If these DEI consultants want to try and smear a company, hire a professional troll and just let them troll the fuck out of them on Twitter, because that's the only place these consultants operate, is they operate on fucking Twitter and try and shame a company and try and do bad publicity. Just get a troll to just respond to him and go and just basically make them look like an idiot. That'll be a hell of a lot cheaper and be a lot more fun.
Instead of the actual results in the situation that involves saving lives and property. I would gladly want that 1 to 2 million to go towards just a chance to make these things better. I think that's a very fair thing to do.
In recent years, critics have complained that LAFD is too white, too male, and has too much nepotism. Now, the nepotism is a fair claim, because if you're choosing people based on who they know, you're not necessarily picking the best people.
Absolutely fair.
That's fair.
I agree with that 100%. Yeah. Nepotism is not a good thing in that field. Nepotism is across the board. You're going to find nepotism everywhere. I think we all know, like, you have like your friend whose dad worked or owned a certain business, and immediately the son is hired, right? We see this happen all the time, but it's a little different when it's like a mom and pa shop versus the fire department, right? Again, if you're not hiring people based on merit, that's bad. And this is basically the inverse of DEI. It has the same result, though, where people are being hired not on merit, but on something else.
And the desire to make LAFD's visual representation more representative of the racial and gender distribution in LA is understandable. But when we make diversity even a secondary goal, when efficacy is the primary goal, then focusing on the secondary goal at all can get in the way of the primary. Now, this has been going on for a while. When the previous mayor, Eric Garcetti, entered office in 2013, he set a goal of raising the number of women in LAFD from 2.9% to up to 5%.
I would love to hear, like, why is that good? How does that help put out fires? They won't be able...
Well, you won't be able to answer that. If someone was to present it to this mayor, how is raising the percentage of female firefighters from 2%, 3.3% to 5%, how is that going to make the LAFD better at fighting fires? He wouldn't be able to answer. He would not be able to answer the question. He would sidestep around it and basically pull some stupid thing out by saying, he would basically pull a DEI line out. But he would not be able to answer the question of how it would make the LAFD better at doing its job. Because this, on its face, if they're getting hired strictly on being female, does not help the LAFD. If you can increase this number, if this number increases organically because you have more female firefighter candidates that can do the job and do it well, that's different. That's different. So in this, you need to look at the candidates. You need to encourage women that have the capability of being a firefighter and encourage them to apply and join the LAFD. You can't just start blindly accepting candidates and saying, okay, you've got tits, you're it. Now, granted, I realize that's not what they do, but that's what it feels like.
Able to tell you at all. In fact, we've heard, I guess apparently it'll make you feel better when you see a firefighter who looks more like you. But no, how does increasing that number actually help put out fires? Please explain that to me.
By 2020. As of now, the percentage is 3.5%. Now, the current head of the LAFD is Kristen Crowley, and here's what she had to say about her diversity goals.
There we go.
Time out of her already busy schedule to tell us about her vision for the department's future, one that includes a 3-year strategic plan to increase diversity.
People ask me, well, what number are you looking for? I say, I'm not looking for a number. It's never enough.
Now,
it's never enough.
The how? So again, I want to hire people based on merit is out of the fucking window. To her, merit means nothing. And it's fucking hell. This you hear that and you're not at all shocked by the piss poor responses anymore. When DEI has invaded the very services that you depend upon to save your life, game's over. It's fucking game over. I mean, if you cannot trust your fire department to save your life and not to have hired on a bunch of diversity hires that can't do the fucking job, it's game fucking over. You basically need to figure out how to fend for yourself in this point. That's basically what she was saying here is don't depend upon us anymore. You basically need to come up with a plan to fend for yourself because we cannot be trusted. Pretty fucking scary, huh?
There's no ceiling on this. The 5%? No, the 5% quota?
Oh, it's 2.0.
No, that's not enough.
It
should go on forever. These people are insane. Their priorities are completely upside down, just like the priorities of really California in general, for being honest.
You might not think this is a big deal. After all, who's going to get upset about wanting more diversity? But in practice, when you have scarce resources and you have a secondary
Actually, I'm gonna disagree with that. Who's gonna get upset about more diversity? Plenty of people, when diversity is the focus. Plenty of fucking people are gonna get upset about it because they're focused on diversity and not focused on ability. So yeah, I'm gonna say a lot.
Priority, that secondary priority can get in the way of the first,
yes.
Especially in an environment where there's scarce resources and your department has lost $17.6 million in budget and needs to make sure that every dollar is allocated to the most important needs. You might even think that, okay, we can have diversity be first and merit be a tiebreaker, but that's not actually what's happening in practice. 3 of the top women at LAFD are all lesbians, and given the minority percentage of lesbians in the overall population in LA, the chances of that happening by chance and purely on merit are 1 in 64,000.
Come on, guys. It just happened naturally. It was a 1 in 64,000 chance that they would all be lesbians. Now, that happened naturally. And if you think otherwise, you're a bigot, clearly.
Yep, of course. Zero. Meanwhile, the head of equity made almost $400,000 in base pay when her job is primarily to focus on diversity when they don't have enough money to even effectively do their job. On top of that, the head of equity...
Yeah, so... that $1 to $2 million for DEI shit that they were talking about? Yeah, it sounds like a quarter of it went to that bureau chief's salary. And Sugi, I don't think she was being hyperbolic. I absolutely do not. I think that she absolutely will bend to breaking any rule to get more women and people of color that are not qualified into the LAFD. And I think she did do that, which is why the response we're seeing is absolute dog shit to these wildfires.
Christine Larson makes more than the second in command, John O'Brien, despite the fact that he outranks her.
How does that make sense? How do you explain that? Like, already these salaries are pretty wonky for a department that's supposedly struggling so much just to function. But how does someone make more money than someone who outranks them?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised, Rabin.
Now, it's all well and good to say that efficacy is your top priority and that you're not going to compromise on that, but the money reveals your actual priorities. Moreover, if you hear Christine Larson talk in this clip, you'll see where qualitatively they're actually focused.
You want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you.
By the way, can I please just point out, in this video, what video clips are they using? They're not showing actual firefighters doing their job. they're showing goddamn Lone Star 911. Okay? That's the reference video footage for this thing. So, let's not bother showing actual firefighters doing their job when she's talking about DEI. Let's show goddamn Lone Star 911, a fictional TV show that if you guys have ever watched, what's his name, the Firehouse Coffee guy, where he green screens himself into these shows, where they do everything wrong in these shows. No, I said Lone Star 911, Kevin. That's what I did. I did say Lone Star 911. But yeah, they're showing a fictional TV show. Fire Department Chronicles. Thank you, Revan. Yes. Yeah. Fire Department Chronicles green screens themselves into these shows. And they do everything wrong. And that's the video footage they choose to pair with this woman talking out her ass about, well, if you're gonna watch someone that looks like you showing up to your fire instead of actually being able to do their job. I mean, it makes sense that they would throw in fiction because she's spitting fucking fiction.
It gives that person a little bit more ease, knowing that somebody might understand their situation better. Is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire. Which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
I can't believe that's a real clip. I really can't believe that's a real clip. That is...
I can't believe she has a job after that clip.
The final form of DEI, where literally you're victim blaming and abandoning your services because what's more important is optics than actual merit and skill to do your job.
Does that sound like the rhetoric of someone who is laser focused on saving lives to you? In addition to DEI,
it also shows that clearly efficacy is not the top priority. At least it's being damaged by other DEI-related concerns because they're making it clear that their efficacy is not important because they just want to look like the people they're trying to save.
Taking critical...
They're basically working off the mantra of the social media generation. That's the mantra they're working off of. They're working off the idea that if it looks good on social media, we need to go that route. Instead of, well, we're going to have to hire the people that are best for the job, and if we don't hire enough non-white people or black people, and the internet gets itself into a fucking tizzy, so be it. They're still alive. That's the attitude that they need to take, but they don't. They take the attitude of the millennial, which is we have to look good on social media. And we see the results of this.
Pull resources away from critical functions. It also introduces a double standard. For example, only 27.9% of public school teachers in LA are men. Is anyone pushing for them to have equity?
Leo.
No. Only about 11% of school also introduces a double standard. For example, only 27.9% of public school teachers in LA are men. Is anyone pushing for them to have equity?
No, of course
Only
not.
about 11% of nurses in the state are men. Is anyone pushing for them to be at 50%?
No, for the very simple reason men in DEI land are second-class citizens. You guys have heard me fucking go absolute rage mode when it comes to how men are treated in current day. Men are treated like absolute shit. Simply for being men. So no, you will never hear anybody taking up arms for men, only being 27% of the teaching workforce in California. Or, what did they say? What did he say it was 22%? 27.9% of the nursing staff. You will never have anyone be a standard bearer for men in those jobs. Because fuck men, right? That's the attitude. And honestly, if they could get away with it, I think the LAFD would happily reduce the number of men in it to 27%. Happily. Because they're fucking morons. Because in the job of a firefighter, which is a physical job, I'm sorry, it's biology. Men are stronger than women. You will have outliers of women.
Why is it so hard to understand that both genders naturally gravitate to different careers and that's okay?
Yeah. Firefighting is a job of strength. That is the facts. To be a firefighter, you need to be a strong motherfucker. You need to be smart as well. Let's not forget about that. You need to be strong. That's why most firefighters, they have like a gym, and they're on their time off, they're working out. Because you need to be strong in that job for what you have to do, for what is expected and demanded of a firefighter. You have to be fucking strong. And the majority of women can't do that. Some can, absolutely. There are plenty of women who have indeed proven themselves to be equally as capable as men in terms of being able to do their jobs with efficiency. But they are the outliers. They are not the majority.
I thought becoming
Yes,
a
it's fine.
firefighter was all about making hot calendars cheer 100.
Maybe back in the 80s, Tex. Back in the 80s it was, for sure. Maybe early 90s, too.
No. And then also heard that the logging industry is really bogged down by men. It's male dominated. Where are the feminists? I will gladly.
Cheer 100. I bring word from the people of Australia.
Huh?
5 years ago, Americans sent volunteer firefighters to aid us during one of the worst wildfires we've seen in living memory. We stand ready to honor that allegiance. Ember P1007.
Really? Sniper Bait, I'm curious. Do you know if Australia has offered to deploy any personnel or equipment to help with California? I don't know if they could because that is a long fucking trip. But do you know if Australia has made that offer to California or not? I'm kind of curious. Base, I have no idea because in the end, does it matter? That's the question for things like that. Like, I understand it's a question of curiosity. I understand and appreciate that. But there's too much of a fixation, particularly with the news media, to root that out. When the reality is, especially in something like firefighters, what percentage of gay men are firefighters doesn't matter. Because I don't care if they're gay. All I care about is can they do the fucking job. But I do understand why you're asking the question just out of like a matter of curiosity. And that's like no problem with that. I'm raging right now, so and kind of jumping on yeah, well, a lot of people do ACE, and a lot of people that fixate on that as a metric for how good a fire department is, and if it should have more or not, those people are stupid. Because it shouldn't be what percentage of firefighters are gay. The question should be what percentage of firefighters can do the job.
Australian helicopter blades spin in the opposite direction from the American ones?
I don't know, ask the Australians.
Gladly work with the feminists to get more women into the logging industry. What about the mines? Do more women want to work in the mines? We can help you out with that. See, that's what you never hear. You never hear the flip side of things, and that's never going to be a thing. No one will ever care enough to actually push for that because at the end of the day, they know what they're doing is just forced diversity.
And women are equal, but we're not equivalent. We have different things that we're good at. And yes, I'm sure there are roles in LAFD that require more empathy and compassion, which women tend to be better at. But setting top-down goals like 5% of the workforce needs to be women is an inversion of our priorities. And what we need to focus on is safety first. On top of that, DEI infantilizes women and minorities, and it causes people to doubt whether any particular woman or minority actually earned their way and truly is the best of the best for their role.
Exactly. This is why affirmative action back in the 90s died. Affirmative action was a thing back in the 90s where they were hiring women and people of color into positions simply for those facets, not because they could do the job. And it wasn't before too long that companies realized, we fucked up, we're hiring dog shit people, affirmative action doesn't work, and affirmative action went away. This is affirmative action 2.0, only supercharged. And no, if right now everyone is asking the question, especially after this information's coming out, everyone is asking the question, how many of the personnel in the current LAFD actually can do the job? And like I said, people are probably screaming for those 3 women to all lose their jobs. And they're probably screaming for the mayor to lose her job too, because she's the one that basically has hired them. So, yeah, if certain individuals are still working after this, there's going to be a problem, I think.
I mean, this is literally how we got the term DEI hire, right? People talk about the proponents of it. They talk about how good DEI is. Well, then when you turn around and call them a DEI hire, they're offended. Why would they be offended if DEI is such a good thing? Well, because deep down they know that being associated with DEI, you're hiring, being associated with that, makes people think you're not qualified. It's an insult. And I really like the point that he raised about how this all infantilizes minorities, women, what have you, because it's saying you're not good enough on your own merit. You're not good enough naturally. So we're going to give you a boost because you're just not good enough. That is infantilization of those groups. It's a very good point.
Now, to be absolutely clear, LAFD is not solely or even primarily responsible for this catastrophe. There are various issues with water management, like insufficient capacity to store water that we need in critical scenarios, or fire hydrants going dry and not having enough water in them.
Yeah, like I saw something,
Cheer 100 that also reminds me, when said volunteers arrived, our local Greens party complained that they were all white men. The fact that they got re-elected was depressing.
Yeah. Well, like, to his point was saying, with the water issue, that's a governmental issue, because I saw a picture of a giant fucking reservoir that is typically used for things like, for hydrants and firefighting and stuff like that. This is a giant fucking reservoir, was bone dry before the fire started. There was there was overhead view of like the reservoir. I think it was like from a year ago, and then the reservoir just before the fires began, and the reservoir was completely dry, not a drop of fucking water in it. And that is not a DEI issue. That's a government issue. Zed, I can't recall exactly where it was. I saw this like a couple days ago, I think. It's, you might be able to find it on, you might be able to do a search for it. I saw it on Twitter. It was a side-by-side photo comparison. But it's just, yeah, there's an issue with water management, with the reservoir systems. There's a problem with the forestry maintenance. That is all governmental responsibility. That is not DEI, okay? I will make it clear. That's not a DEI issue. That's a government issue where the government is royally fucking up. So it's multiple pieces. Okay, this is multiple pieces all forming this hellscape of a wildfire puzzle. There is not one singular thing. So like we're focused here on the DEI stuff with this particular video. But it is not the only, there's not one single thing that you can point to and say that is solely responsible for why everything went to shit with this wildfire. It is a conglomerate of multiple factors that have all come together to form the perfect shitstorm. And we're seeing the results of it. We're just kind of, in this video, looking at the what. We're looking at one of these factors.
Part of this is just gross incompetence because in 2014, Californians passed a bill that allocated billions of dollars for more water storage capacity. And now, over 10 years later, we still don't have an additional capacity built because of over-regulation.
Well, that's a classic function of government. It's amazing in California how they're able to swiftly pass some bills relating to the ability of people to have their transition surgeries paid for as inmates, but they can't get water into hydrants. In fact, this whole situation...
Yeah, the overregulation is what he was talking about. How many of you guys have watched Bill Maher? Any of you guys used to watch, like, Real Time with Bill Maher? He points this out, how California is fucking batshit crazy about this stuff. Bill Maher wanted to put up a small shed in his backyard. Small shed for solar power generation. Like a small shed with solar panels on top that feeds into a battery that would then, I think, feed into his hub for basically solar generated power as like as sort of like an addition to additional power source to minimize what he's taken off the grid. It took him, I think, 2 or 3 years to build a shed. It's something like a 4 foot by, it was something like a 4 foot by 4 foot or 6 foot by 6 foot shed. It took him 2 or 3 years to get it built because everything was so hyper-regulated. He had to get land surveys done. He had to get inspectors done. He had to get about 50 more people than needed to build this shed because of so many fucking inspections and regulations and licenses and permits and all this shit. There's another situation. I can't remember if this was California or not. They wanted to build a public toilet on the street for the homeless. They wanted to build like basically a bathroom thing for homeless people. And to build a single fucking toilet was going to cost them millions of dollars. Millions, plural, because of the surveys, of the permits, of the licenses. And bear in mind, the city itself wanted to do this. They even had a company that said, you know what, we're going to donate all the materials so you don't have to pay the materials. And company even said, you know what, we're even going to donate our time and we're going to build all of this for you. We're going to do everything for you gratis. It still costs something like $750,000 to the city just for the permits for a single toilet. That's what he's talking about with the hyper use of regulations so nothing gets done. Absolutely nothing gets done because there are 50,000 regulations for the simplest thing that you want to do. And that's why California can't build anything. Because they are red taping themselves into the ground.
Is actually really crazy because some people are actually visiting
here it
right
is.
now.
This is it. This is it. This is exactly what I was talking about. This reservoir is like bone fucking dry. This is it. Yep, the Santa Ynez Reservoir. This is what I was talking about.
Some of these reservoirs, and they're empty.
This was supposed to be the water to put out the Palisades fire. This is the Santa Ynez Reservoir. It's the water supply basically for the Palisades. When they first started fighting the Palisades fire, they ran out of water extremely quickly.
It's deceptive.
Wednesday, 3 a.m., they were basically out. And there's been a lot of talk on why this happened. So how long has this reservoir been empty for?
Since February of last year. There was no...
Yeah, it looks deceptively small. It's not.
Since
if this is probably about the size of a football stadium, so this is not small. If this was full, bear in mind, remember he said this is to take care of the Palisades alone. Is what this was for, and it's dry.
February of last year, there was no communication from the Department of Water and Power to LAFD that there was a water supply issue.
Again, remember, wildfires are one of the biggest threats to California.
There's multiple means,
so the fact that
I'm not
this
sure
water
how this
reservoir
one
was
is built.
empty for basically a year is insane incompetence.
Firefighters, when they started fighting the fires, no one informed them that the reservoir was empty.
This reservoir holds 117 million gallons of water. The fire department was using a water supply from 3 backup tanks, each one only holding 1 million gallons of water.
They say it's closed for maintenance.
So they basically got about 1% of the available
So it's closed
water
for
because
maintenance.
that
I'm not sure what feeds into this water reservoir. My guess is it feeds in from some other source, some other major source that could fill it. But he just said that it's been closed for maintenance. Yeah. No one was saying the firefighters controlled the reservoir. It's, again, multiple factors that are all contributor. We're now moving into the governmental issues that have caused the fuck up.
Reservoir was empty.
Compare the lid that's on top of it. I don't know a lot about reservoir maintenance, but there's literally no construction materials or vehicles anywhere in sight. Also,
exactly,
with a reservoir like
exactly.
this, you can refill it or start to refill it. So another question is, if they saw the Santa Ana winds were coming and we have this remarkably dry wet season, why was there no attempt to start refilling it back up?
Incompetence. There's literally nothing else. And there's two different themes, incompetence and then these DEI related policies, but they really go hand in hand, right? If you're making DEI related hires and policy changes, that leads to incompetent people finding leadership positions. And I think they're very related in that sort of a way. Well, let's get back to this original video with a couple of minutes left.
This is all happening while the head of LA Water and Power makes $750,000 a year.
Jesus!
That's the person who's supposed to be in charge of those reservoirs, who's making nearly...
Okay. Why in the holiest of fucks is the head of Water and Power? By the way, why is she CEO? Is Water and Power not a governmental agency in LA? I'm sorry, am I wrong? Is Water and Power not part of the government? And not a private industry? Water and Power is a privately owned business. Okay, I realize that... I realize people say you shouldn't trust the government, but you're talking about the thing that handles the water and power of LA. And it's in private company hands? What the fuck? Well, yeah, Zeb, now it's gonna get even worse. Okay, so the fact that she's CEO of a company that's $750,000 makes more sense, but Jesus fucking Christ.
Nearly $1 million a year, and they're not even filling up these reservoirs or letting anyone know that they're empty.
Lawsuit.
It's more than the president.
Oh. Wait a minute. If LA Water and Power is a private company, and they failed to fill up that reservoir that could have helped with the Palisades fire, I smell lawsuit by the entire city of the Palisades. Well, now I think we may know how the people of the Palisades that insurance is not going to cover can get their money back to rebuild. Lawsuit.
Of the United States. It's also not just a state issue. Only 3% of the land in California is owned by the state. 57% of it is owned by the federal government. However, the state and the federal government do work together to keep it clear and maintained so that wildfires don't get out of control. But as I mentioned before, LAFD is just a microcosm of a macro issue of our government and our politicians constantly focusing on what sounds good rather than focusing on what is good, like safety. And we can't just point the finger outward because the politicians are responding to the culture set by the people.
Again, that's what I was saying. They're treating it like they're millennials instead of treating it like they're boomers. People love to dog on boomers all the time, but you know what? Boomers get shit done. If you want something to get done these days, you don't talk to a millennial, don't talk to a Gen Zer, you don't talk to a Gen Alpha, you talk to a boomer. If you want something to get fucking done. And the modern government is trying to appease the millennials, which you can't do. That's something that people in local, state, and federal government need to figure the fuck out. You cannot please the millennials and the Gen Alphas. You will not please them. Because they've practically come out of the womb with industry-grade victimhood drilled into their brains. There is no pleasing them. So you need to ignore what they fucking say and just do what is right. Okay? Ignore the reeing and the whining and crying that you're not respecting us, you're not, you have to do this because you have to respect my ethnicity or respect my pronouns or whatever the fuck. That needs to be ignored. Yeah, you're right. Gen Zers are, I would put them in with the boomers, in terms of getting shit done. You are absolutely right there. I threw Gen Zers into the wrong category. It's the millennials and the Gen Alphas that just perpetually whine and bitch and think that that's gonna fix everything. Gen Z and boomers come from a generation that actually gets shit done still. And if you want something to get done, you talk to Gen Z, you talk to Gen Alpha, and you ignore the millennials and the alphas. Fucking ignore them. Okay? If they start ringing too much, you tell them, shut your little bitch ass holes up and go sit in the fucking corner. The grown-ups are dealing with your dog shit. When was Gen X? Oh, Gen X, you're right. I did forget about Gen X. Gen X is between Boomer and Gen Z. You're right. Gen X is in there too. No, I didn't mix them up. I forgot one. Millennials are 80. Wait, I thought 81 to 2000 was Gen Z. I thought Gen Z was 81 to 2000. Is it Gen Z then Alpha? Oh fuck, I'm getting all the generations all mixed up. Z is 96 to... Okay, millennials are 80s... Millennials are 80s to 94s. Oh, for fuck's sake. Okay, let me rephrase that. Okay? The generation... Let me put it this way. Fuck the generational labels in the moment, okay? Fuck the labels. If you want shit done, you want people that were adults in this that came into adulthood in the 70s and 80s. That is who you want to get shit done. Those that came into adulthood in the 70s and 80s. Whatever fucking generation they are, because at this point I don't know and I'm honestly don't give a fuck. If they were adults in the 70s and 80s, they're the ones that will actually get shit done. They have the work ethic. The ones that were came into adulthood mid to late 90s and up, those are the ones that are whiny and crying about everything. Yeah, we're getting completely derailed here. We're only 4 minutes away, so anyway. That's what I'm saying. Okay? They basically, the OGs from the 70s and 80s, those are the ones that got shit done.
So that's a good point. I see a lot of people on social media like being apathetic or even celebrating these wildfires because it's hitting celebrities, and they're like, oh, well, these people are rich and annoying and they're getting what they deserve. I reject that. I think that's not a productive thing to do at all, because yeah, you might dislike random Hollywood celebrity number one, but also they have families and other things like that that are completely unrelated, and also at the end of the day, it's going to cost taxpayer dollars. At this point, I've seen the estimates. There's something like $150 billion of property damage already, and that's going to be coming out of the taxpayer wallet. So this is all something you should not be celebrating in any sort of a way. I think that's wrong. But on top of that, though, with these people affected by these wildfires, and really just California in general, you would really hope that all of this would be a moment of reflection. They look at what their government is doing and saying, wow, we voted these people into power. We supported these people. No, they're actually incompetent. Maybe we should re-examine how we're supporting these people.
Nope. Because, like everything, what's going to happen, elections are a long way off. And voters these days have short-ass attention spans. So by the time voting comes around again, because what's going to happen is people are going to demand results now. They're going to demand fire chief gets fired. They're going to demand that those top 3 echelons get fired. They're going to demand the mayor resign. They're probably going to go fuck off. And in, a couple months' time, it's probably going to be forgotten about. Because that's been the pattern. That's absolutely been the pattern. We've seen it too many times before. We've seen it with the protests, where people were doing protests, where they'll protest something for about a week, nothing actually gets done, they move on to the next thing. So, yeah, if this happened close to an election, then yes, maybe there might be a chance that this would affect how people would vote for someone, based on their responses. It's not close to an election anymore. The next election is like 2 years away. By the time that election rolls around, people are going to forget about it. They will. There'll be some attempts to remind it, but unless something happens at the time of an election, a big chunk of the voting public now have memories like a goldfish. If it doesn't happen right there and then, they're going to forget about it a month or 2 later, because they will have moved on with their lives, and because nothing got done, they're not going to focus on it, and they're going to forget about it. And they'll be they'll be focused on the next catastrophe that comes down the pipeline. And for Crooner, thank you for the follow.
If we as a people keep allowing ourselves to be confused and keep on thinking that having diversity is more important than efficacy and merit in our critical functions and our government that we're paying our hard-earned tax money for, we will keep on getting the same results. And while we're getting those results, we'll allow ourselves to keep on getting misled by Democratic politicians like Bernie Sanders, who exclusively focus on climate change, which is part of the issue. And yes, the climate is changing. We might have reasonable disagreements about how much of climate change is man-made and how fast it's happening, but it is happening, and it's something that we need to all adapt to.
I'm seeing a lot of people on social media too using this as like an own. For some reason, they're like, there, yeah, see? All of this is happening. Climate change is happening. Look at you idiots who were doubting, or people who were doubting the level it's impacting our planet and things like that.
These are people that their only purpose in life is to try and win an argument on Twitter. That's the people that Reb is referencing are just people that are terminally online, and all they care about is winning some stupid argument on Twitter. They actually do not give a fuck about the actual issue at hand. And if you try to tell them that it is a multifaceted issue and that climate change is one factor involved, that it should be considered as such, but there are other issues that also are compiled on top of this that also need to be looked at, they will cry and whine and say you're being whatevered. And David, thank you for 5 gifted. Thank you. So yeah, what he's talking about is that they're people that don't actually care about the issue. They probably don't even give a fuck about the issue. They just care about winning an argument on Twitter. That's it.
But you would think for California, a very, very liberal state, if they believed this is such a core issue here, why weren't they prepared for it at all? Wouldn't you think they'd be the most prepared for something like a wildfire because they're so aware of the effects of climate change? Just again, it's stuff that looks good on the surface, makes them look good. They're complaining about climate change and saying how bad it is, but in practice, they're doing nothing about it. In fact, a lot of the celebrities who are preaching about this stuff are the ones who are flying private planes that emit more toxins into the planet than you will in your entire life.
But in the short term, while we're misallocating our resources because of DEI and inverting our priorities, people are dying. This fire probably wasn't preventable. We had some of the strongest windstorms on record, and in a sense, it was a bit of a perfect storm. But could it have been majorly mitigated? Absolutely.
Yes.
And having the best team available and putting our money in the best places available is a necessary condition for that happening.
Anyone who disagrees with that is an absolute moron. How can you possibly disagree with that? If DEI is causing even the slightest bit of issues and complications with putting out these fires, it should be gone. Just like that. Even if it makes it just 1% more manageable of a crisis, that means human lives are going to be saved. That means homes are going to be saved. How can you possibly prioritize DEI over that? I just really don't get it. But that's where I'm going to end this video for now. Like I said, this was a great piece here. I'll put a link to it in the description. You want to check it out for yourself and other content from this individual. But yeah, that is the unbelievable effect DEI has actually gotten to, and it's really showing itself with this current ongoing California set of wildfires. But for now, that's going to do it for this video. As always, feel free to share your thoughts about today's topics in the comment section down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.
So yeah, while the weather conditions absolutely were a perfect storm in terms of starting the wildfire, the failures in governmental responsibility and, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, LA, the city's responsibility, the way they've been functioning was also a perfect storm of failure.
Cheer 200. Why did that make me so mad? Good video, but made me mad.
Again, it made me mad too. I knew it was gonna make me mad. I knew it was because I knew what part of the topic was, but